So before we start our special effects makeup demonstration videos, I'm just going to introduce you to a few of the products that we're going to be using. These are the most common products we use in the special effects and theatrical makeup demonstrations. There are some exceptions, but we'll get to those a bit later as we get more advanced. So the first thing that you need is some colours, some paints. This is a paint palette that I like to use. It's water-based face paint. Any water-based face paint will be fine. I like this particular brand, which is Grimace, because I like the little palette system it has, but any water-based face paint will do the same job for you. This over here is a special effects wax. This one is called Nose and Scar Wax by Ben Nye. That's my preferred brand for teaching because I find that it's the easiest one to use when people are new to the subject. There are lots of brands on the market, but some of them are much more difficult to use. This product is a liquid latex or a latex rubber milk, and this is used for lots of different effects, and I use it in combination with the wax quite a lot because it forms a nice skin over the wax and helps it to be more tightly stuck to your skin and easier to paint. You'll need a decent quality special effects blood or film blood, which generally comes in two different colours, a light blood or a dark blood. This one is the dark, but either or both are good. Very technical toilet tissue, toilet roll. That's a good product to have around, either for cleanup or for using in your effects, which you'll see later on in the videos. We have some bath sponge, which I generally like to use for applying the liquid latex, because if you use a brush or a more expensive sponge, it just gets ruined and you have to throw it away. So something nice and cheap that you can cut chunks out of and just dispose of at the end is the best way to go for applying your liquid latex. You can also use the same type of sponge for applying paints for different effects later on as well, but we don't need to know that just now. This black sponge is a special carbon sponge or stipple sponge, and this one is used for applying the blood if you want to create a splatter effect, because it gives you a nice spatter pattern for blood effects when you have a need for a spatter pattern, basically. And we have some glitter for your prettier effects, and some Vaseline over here, which I use in conjunction with the glitter to help the glitter to stick. I prefer this system to using a glitter that's already in its own gel, because I find that dries out too quickly and some of it gets wasted. We need some cocktail sticks, which the reason for that will become apparent when you watch the videos. And I have three different types of brushes I generally tend to use. I use a small, a medium and a large brush, which is generally used for blending. You can see I've got a fourth type of brush here, which the reason for that is because this one has a special end on it, which is used for scraping. So when I want to use the special effects wax, I use this brush with this type of end to scrape the wax as if I was scraping margarine from a tub, and then I can take the wax from the brush and roll it into the little sausage shapes or whatever other shape I need to make with my special effects wax to do my cuts or bullet holes or any other effect that I'm planning to do. You can also use a wooden spatula or something along those lines if you find that you can't find a brush like this, but they are fairly easy to find from art shops in my general experience. I think that's all the equipment I need to tell you about for now, so let's get on with the videos and we'll get to the more advanced stuff later. Okay, and welcome to your bullet hole makeup demonstration. So, first thing I've done to start off your bullet hole is, as we did before with the cut, I've started off with a little sausage shape made from the wax. But instead of putting this on straight this time, I'm going to bend the edges around and stick them together. So I'm making a little sort of donut or polo mint shape. And that's going to be my bullet hole. There's lots of different ways to make bullet holes, entry wounds, exit wounds, that sort of thing, but this is just a nice simple way to start experimenting. So I'm going to shoot my model straight through the forehead, which is a very popular way to go for makeup, not for reality. And I'm going to position that where I want the bullet hole to be, and I'm going to smooth the edges around the outer edge out Again, if you've seen my first demo from the cut, you'll know how important it is to make sure that the edges are completely blended and not like this where you can see the gaps around the edges, because otherwise all your water and your latex and everything else are going to go underneath it and they're going to pull it off and it's not going to stay on as you want it to. When you've done it properly, you should have a good blend where you can't really see the joins particularly well. And like the cut, because I can't get to that inner edge with my finger because my finger's too big to get in the hole, I'm just going to use the brush handle and I'm going to smooth the inner edge down with my paintbrush handle to make sure that that edge hasn't got any loose edges that things can get underneath either. And then once I've done that, I'm going to cover that with a whole layer of latex as usual, so that forms a nice skin over the top of it, stops it from coming off so easily, and makes a nice barrier so it's nice and easy to paint. Very important because I'm shooting her through the head to make sure that I don't get the latex in her eyebrows or into her hairline, because the latex will dry like chewing gum and it will not easily come out of your clothes, your hair, your eyebrows, or anything else you don't want it to stain. So be very careful when you're doing this. If you've got a much more liquidy latex than I've got, which is more usual, then it would be sensible to cover the person's eyes with your hand like so, because then if it drips, it's going to drip onto your hand and not onto the person's eyes and eyelashes and cause you any major problems. Once that's covered in a layer of latex, we need, as usual, to let it dry completely, because we can't paint it when it's wet because it will ruin your paintbrushes. And when it's dry, it's going to go completely clear. So when you can't see white anymore, it's ready to paint. For now, we just need to wait for a few minutes. Okay, so we've spent a bit of time waiting for that to dry, and you can see all the outside area is dry. The middle still looks a little bit white, but when I touch that with the brush handle, none of the latex is actually coming off on the brush, so that's dry, but it's just dried a little bit thicker than the rest, so it just still looks a little bit white, but it's still okay to paint, so that's okay. Always test it first though, it's better to be safe than have to throw your brushes out. So I'm going to start with the colours in the same way as I started with the cut, and that's with the black, because every injury effect benefits from having black in the centre to make it look nice and deep. So the centre of the bullet hole is all going to be filled in with the black. Then I'm going to do colours around the outside again to make a little bit of not so much a bruise effect, but just a little bit of an injured effect. I'm not going to make this one look like a bruise effect, because odds are, because she's been shot through the centre of her head, she's not going to live for very long. So odds of her bruising are fairly slim. You can of course get post-mortem bruising, but that's a whole different effect, and this is a fresh bullet hole, so it would be too soon for that to have happened anyway. So I'm just going to do some red close to the bullet hole. Not too much, just a few dabs around the outside. I'm going to leave the purple out because the purple is the colour that we use for the bruising, and we don't need that in this case. If you're shot through the arm or hand or anywhere else where you're not going to die, then put the purple in as you would do with the cut. Just follow the same instructions I did for the basic cut for your bruising in that case. In this case, I'm just going to do the red and the yellow around the edges to help it to blend. So I haven't gone too heavy with the colour. I'm just going to use my big brush, damp, not soaking wet, with water as usual. And again, I'm going to dab my light colour first, because I don't want to get my brush too dirty with other colours. So I'm going to brush. I'm going to dab, not brush. We don't want to brush because we get stripes. Until I've just feathered that out a little bit. Then I'm going to dab the red. If the red won't blend, it means the brush isn't quite damp enough, so just dip it in the water again. This is working okay. And that's as much colour as I want to put on that. I'm going to take it down into her eyes a little bit, for a little bit of bruising there, just because the pink wants to go that way. So why not? Not compulsory, just you can do. And then I'm just going to put some blood splatter on that and we're all done with the bullet. So when it comes to putting blood on your bullet hole, if this is an entry wound, your face will not be covered in blood. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that you're going to get a lot of blood all over the face from a bullet hole, but you're not, because the exit wound is where most of the blood's going to go, which would be more around the back of her head, where you can't see there, where there'll probably be some skull missing and there'll be a lot of blood back there. But we're not going to do that effect because we don't want to get a hair full of blood today. So we're just going to do the entry wounds. We're going to put a bit of splatter for where the bullet went through and splashed the blood as it was making contact with her. And then I'm going to get some blood on the brush, dip the brush into the blood and roll it so you get a thick layer of blood on your brush, and then put that into the centre and fill the hole with the blood. We will put some drips, but we're not going to cover our whole face in blood, so we're going to get some drips that go down the centre of her nose there, and a little bit more to the side. I find 2 or 3 drips is enough to get the effect right. Too many is just starts to look a little bit crazy. Tickles. So, my model's nice and dripping in blood now, and you can see the bullet hole effect. She's obviously not dying like you should do at this stage, but the effect is finished, and that's how it should look when you finish with your bullet hole. Thank you, model.